What an amazing turnout for this heartfelt benefit, with loads of fun performances, amazingly good food, and an auction with some great items, all to raise money to help the astronomical costs that go along with the medical experience that Jan and her family have endured. And now, on with the show.
And pick a prize with friends and gifts, guests, and family ties.
So sit right back, enjoy the show, and have some fun before you go.
For a fan for Jen, she's come so far.
So cute. Give me a J.
J. Give me an A.
A. Give me an N.
N. What's that spell? J. What's that spell? J. We love Jen.
When Darlene first approached me and asked me if I was interested in sharing a talent tonight, I thought to myself, how much there? Then I thought, well, my brother David would probably give a fly fishing demonstration. Scott would probably provide a lesson on how to rebuild a tractor motor. So I better come up with something so that we don't put people to sleep. I know from time to time I've taken the opportunity to poke a little fun at my precious sister. So I thought, okay, I'll take a crack at entertaining with a few stories. Hopefully she won't take offense to my sharing them, and I won't take offense if she doesn't find them particularly funny. Anyway, over time I learned it was wise not to pick on Jan's physical attributes for the purpose of humor. You see, we often get together for barbecues or birthdays or such events, and I recall one in particular. We were gathered on Jan's deck, sitting around conversing, and I turned to her and said, "So this blonde walks into Martin's." Jan jumps up and she says, "If this is a blonde joke, you better think twice about telling it. I'm blonde, Alicia's blonde, Brian and Chris are too, and they'll kick your butt. You sure you want to go there?" I thought for a minute. I replied, "Not if I have to explain it 4 times. She didn't get that either. It's really been a terrifying year for Jan, but you know, she's no stranger to terror. In our youth, my older brother and I spent hours and hours trying to figure out ways to torment and scare our younger siblings. Growing up in a small house, David and I shared a bedroom, as did Janice and Scott until they started school. We were all upstairs, and my parents were downstairs. In the heat of the summer, we would open our doors to catch any cool breeze blowing through the house. Each night it was the same routine, and shortly after we were all tucked in, and Mom and Dad were back downstairs, the lights went off, and in a short while, a little voice would call out, "Dad, can you turn a light on? I'm scared of the dark." It was Jan. Dad would reassure her that there was nothing to be afraid of, and settle them back down into bed. One particularly creative day, David and I had received some fluorescent paints that my grandparents had given us to keep us occupied. We set about creating the scariest face we could conjure, using the brightest colors we had. It was the face of a devil with bright white horns, pointed ears, piercing eyes, and blood dripping from its ominous fangs. Once created, we carefully placed it in the window behind the shade in Jan and Scott's room. Later that night at bedtime, after we were all tucked in, the little voice called out again, "Dad, can we have a light on?" David called to her, "Janice, if you open the shade, you'll get plenty of light from the street lights." Moments after the shade went up and the blood-curdling scream was heard, we pulled the covers over our heads, trying to curb our laughter and pretending we were asleep, as our father raced up the stairs, to find the sobbing siblings clinging to the ceiling. Lesson 2, don't tick Dad off. As if we hadn't learned our lesson then, a few short weeks later we spent the night at my grandparents' house. Their home was much bigger and the bedrooms were further apart. We didn't want to get caught this time. The paints had been taken away from us, so we needed to get a little more creative. We spent the day exploring about the house, and while playing a rousing game of hide and seek, we discovered a small steel shoe rack in the bottom of the closet, in the bedroom where Jan and Scott were to sleep that night. David and I discovered that if you use a spool of thread and double up the thread, it was strong enough to move the shoe rack in the closet from the bedroom that we were staying in. And if you gave it enough of a tug, it would create the monster in the closet, but it would also break the thread, and it could be retrieved to our bedroom, and there would be no evidence of foul play. We carefully tied the thread on the shoe rack, fed it back to our bedroom, concealing it against the floorboard. The trap was set. As we readied for bed that evening, we set the tone by reminding them of the ghost that we could hear in the attic sometimes if it was really quiet. With a night light in their room, they went to bed with a little more confidence than if they were at home and in the pitch black. Within 15 minutes or so, we could hear their muffled voices and decided to give a little tug to get their attention. After the first tug, the muffled voices had ceased. The second tug was what would really get their attention, and it did. It pulled the shoe rack right to the door and the screaming began. Unfortunately, instead of breaking at the shoe rack, the thread snapped halfway back to our bedroom. Uh-oh. Lesson 3, don't tick Dad off. Fast forward to the present. It is evident that Jan, or Oda May, as we lovingly refer to her, has a special gift. It has been shared with many of you and has provided comfort in the process. In case there's any interest, rumor has it that she has connections with Jim Morrison of The Doors, Patrick Swayze of Ghost fame, John F. Kennedy, who by the way was partial to blondes, Joan of Arc, Florence Nightingale, Walt Disney, Shakespeare, and a host of others. Negotiations are currently underway with Michael Jackson. And sorry, but a reading with Elvis will cost you more. It is humbling to have so many of Jan's friends, family, and fans present here tonight. Words cannot adequately express the gratitude we have for the love, kindness, and emotional support that you have all shown her with your presence at this event and over the last year and a half. Cancer is an ugly, indiscriminate disease that wreaks havoc on its host. It has been a devastating and painful experience for Janice, her husband Bob, and all of her extended family and friends. But we are not here to lament her illness or misfortune. We have gathered here to celebrate her spirit, to encourage the healing process, and to admire the faith that has carried her through to a healthier state. You have all played an important role in that with your prayers, visits, phone calls, get well cards, Facebook posts, tweets, and many kind gestures. The miracle of modern medicine is never enough. I sometimes mock what I don't understand. But tonight, I believe in all of the angels that she surrounds herself with, and I am certain of their powers. I am of the belief that the state of mind contributes to one's well-being. Janice's faith and belief has never wavered. I have never witnessed an ounce of surrender in her. Through it all, 2 words that I have repeatedly heard during her ordeal stand out in my mind. They are love and light. I thank you all for sharing your love and light with her.